MTN SME Hub. Link to growth. Link to success. Link to the ultimate resource for business advice and insights.
Welcome to the Big Small Business Show, the show for all our wonderful, wonderful entrepreneurs out there who are trying to make a life, a living, a legacy. And part of building a business is the ability to tell the story of that business. And today we've got a very special session today because we've got Ian Macleod. He's from the Center of African Management and Markets, CAMM as they call it, which is part of GIBS, the Gordon Institute of Business Science. And he'll be talking to us about storytelling. So, welcome.
Thank you.
So, the power of storytelling. Whenever I meet entrepreneurs, I always say to them, we've got to be telling a number of stories. We have to tell the financial story. We have to tell the history of the business. We have to tell and we have to tell the story of the future. You know, all these stories that we have to tell to keep investors and staff interested. Tell us more about the power of storytelling.
In my view, story is what makes humans special. It's what makes us different from all the other animals. We can create and manipulate stories. And one story is a business, a culture, a society. Those are also stories. But what really differentiates us is the ability to come up with new stories and change them. Lions have a pride with characters or roles in that pride, a story about what each person does. We can come up with brand new models and structures, and it's really the ability to create those that allowed us to create businesses. So, for example, I think the greatest invention of all time was the limited liability company, which is a shared story. And so storytelling really is what a business is. And what I often say to entrepreneurs is that investors aren't going to invest in a business. They're investing in a story. They don't want your current assets. What they're buying is something intangible. It's something that they believe will happen in the future. And you can't sell that as a physical thing. You've got to tell that as a story.
But Ian, you know, there's also another side to that, is that, you know, they're saying, don't tell me stories, you know, like, in other words, they're devoid of fact or devoid of truth. So how does one balance when building a story, the bringing in fact or truth and bringing in fantasy of what the future might be?
Yes.
Or the past was.
Yes. And the power of story, well, stories can be powerful whether they're true or not. We only need to look at one of the many shysters out there, Elizabeth Holmes and her scandal. Stories can be powerful when they're not backed up by truth. And so what I always advise is tell a compelling but credible story. It's powerful and therefore it comes with responsibility. Tell a genuine story.
So how do you tell a story? Is it that same, you know, the thing that we might learn about making sure there's an arc and the characters? Are there certain tenets to building a story?
Yes. In fact, story in many ways is very formulaic. If you watch Hollywood movies, certainly let's take action movies, they tend to follow very much a color by number format. Take Hamlet and The Lion King. Strip away lots of the meat, the names, etc. The story arc is exactly the same. And so all of us, having watched thousands of movies and just being human, we understand story. And often it's just a few nudges to get us to appreciate some of those typical story arcs, the hero's journey being the most common one, partly because it's very powerful. And once we get those basics, we use that intuition that we all have to tell compelling stories.
Just you speak about the hero's journey. What is that?
Hero's journey. The world starts out and it's a normal world. Then there's a drama. Something happens, normally something terrible. Then the hero, or the soon-to-be hero, is called to action. We'll go back to Lion King. Simba is called to defeat Uncle Scar. Normally, the hero then resists. And we all know this from an action movie. The hero should be avenging the death of his wife. Instead, he's drinking and not heeding the call. Something happens. There's normally a spirit guide. In The Lion King, it was Rafiki. A little bit of wisdom helps the hero to become the hero. He rises up, he slays the dragon, whatever that may be, and then we come down from that height of tension to a new normal, which is different from that original new normal. Think about any number of great stories and it'll fit somewhere on that hero's journey arc. And in fact, it looks very much like the business cycle chart. It increases, hits an apex, and then kind of tapers off a little bit. And if you watch movies with that in mind, you'll notice how many of them follow that exact arc.
How do we apply that story in telling our story or to an investor? Is that the story of the past of the business? How do you apply that practically?
Very often, simpler is better. You don't need to understand all the intricacies. If your story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, you've got a decent structure. And a good starting point is to think of your origin story. What happened that made you start this business? And very often, once you capture that, you may not think it's impressive, but very often that captures who and what your business is, and it tells a very compelling story.
Okay, so we're going to take a break just now, but before we take a break, are there any other archetypal stories other than the hero's journey?
You can break it down into almost any number you choose. Joseph Campbell does this. I would suggest not going beyond the hero's journey. Simpler is better, and the hero's journey is the go-to.
So we're going to take a break now. When we come back, I'm going to push Ian to take us through how we would use that more practically in a business. Stay tuned.
MTN SME Hub, link to business success.